Can't you see me while I cry on the floor? I hate it when they say it happens for a reason, but I cannot see a reason at all. Would you love me when I'm far away from you? Would you love me when all you got is photographs of us kissing in your favorite sporty town? Would you love me when I'm gone up to the stars?
Hey there everybody, welcome to the music production and sound engineering webinar. My name is Luke.
My name's Alex Funzi.
Thanks so much for joining us today. And today's webinar really is an opportunity for you to find out specifically about our music production and sound engineering degree. So we've got loads of great information for you today. Just to give you a bit of an outline of what we've got in store, I'm going to be going through just a few details about Point Blank as a school, about the course in general, and what it's like to study here. We're then going to be speaking a bit more with Alex, finding out a bit about what he does here at Point Blank, what he teaches, being the program leader of the course, of course. And we're going to go through each of the years of the degree and the modules that you're going to be studying, kind of having a bit of a deeper dive into what you can expect from studying this degree with us. Later on, we've got a very special guest with us. Another one of our lecturers, James Malone, is going to be coming in and doing a bit of a workshop. So I'm really looking forward to that. Hope you are too, Alex.
Very much so.
And yeah, if you do have any questions for us throughout today's webinar, do please put those in the chat room. My colleague John is managing the chat room today, and he's going to be basically fielding all these questions to us at the end of the webinar. We'll be answering them live. Myself, Alex, and James later on. Also, another thing I wanted to just quickly mention is that obviously we welcome students from all over the world here at Point Blank. So do let us know where you might be logging in from today. We'll give you a little shout out later on. But for now, let me just make sure my presentation is working okay. I wanted to share a quick video with you just to kind of highlight what this course is all about. So take a look at this.
Studying sound engineering should hopefully open up many career avenues. Having the fundamental knowledge and understanding of how to work with audio, be it recording, mixing, mastering, or reproducing sound, are applicable to many, many different industries. So although we focus primarily on working with music and recorded audio, there's also potential career opportunities within film, post-production, TV, games, or essentially any music for media.
The opportunity to come and use the studios and like my own personal practice time was one of the most valuable things about coming here. It's been built for purpose.
The level 4 is where you come in, it's where you start, it's your first year. So that level we've got modules like music composition, music production, sound design, sound engineering, music industry. It's kind of the foundation set of modules for the BA program. At level 5 is a module called Creative Production and Remix, and that's really where we start to bring together the different skills I learned at level 4. So production skills, composition, potentially some sound design, and it's working with a supplied set of songs and exploring the creative possibilities around remixing and remix culture. Level 6 I would teach on the portfolio module, which is ultimately what students are working their way towards. By the end of their degree, they're looking to create a portfolio project, and that might be a sound engineering project, it might be a composing for media project, it might be an audio for games project, or it might be an artist EP. And at level 6 generally, we're aiming for the students to be more autonomous in their learning and really kind of getting them ready for going out there into the world and working in industry.
It is definitely a good time to really own your artistry and to really do you. And I like to think that that's what we're trying to do here in Point Blank as well, to give the students the tools and the confidence really to be able to step into the industry and own themselves and what they are all about.
Point Blank itself as a brand is globally recognised, easily one of the biggest music educators out there, from having different places based over in Los Angeles, Ibiza. It's really quite a well-recognised name. If I go out to other places and explain, like I work for Point Blank, straight away people know who that is and who I'm working for.
Awesome stuff. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into what the music production and sound engineering degree is all about. Whilst we've been watching that video, a few of you have just quickly mentioned where you're logging in from in the chat room. So it's a big hello to the Finder, who's in Canterbury, Mr. Bristow, hello. We've got Giuseppe in London, the Zoomers from Buckinghamshire. Everyone's using aliases today, it looks like. We've got someone who's logging in from Cape Town and who's asking if Ski Oakenfall can bring back the deconstructions. Come to our open days or check them out online. There's loads of great deconstructions there. So I hope you found that video a bit more informative. I wanted to go into a bit of general information about the music production sound engineering degree. So it is a Bachelor of Arts honours degree. This degree is validated by Middlesex University. So Point Blank Music School partners with Middlesex University, and when you graduate from your degree, you will exit with a Middlesex award. We offer a 2 or a 3-year pathway for this particular degree. So the 2-year course is going to be an accelerated, intensivized version where you're studying the same amount of content from the 3-year course, just condensed into those 2 years. Or if you're looking for a bit more of a traditional university experience, we would offer a 3-year pathway. Unlike a lot of other university courses, we have actually 3 enrollments per year for this degree. We had one start actually just this Monday in January, but we also have start dates in April and in September. So if you are considering applying for April or September, get your application in as soon as possible. You can apply through UCAS, or you can otherwise apply directly on our website, and our admissions team will be delighted to consider you. Now, a question we get asked all the time about our courses are about study modes and timetables. So bear in mind that studying this degree course is a full-time course. You're going to be studying 2 to 3 classes per week, but there's loads of additional independent study time expected of you. So you can come in and you can make use of our huge 30,000-foot studio complex 7 days per week. It's here for you to use to come in and practice, to work on your coursework, your assignments, to collaborate with other students, to work in your own personal projects, and really maximize your time whilst you're here. Unlike other universities, we don't operate in huge lecture halls as well with hundreds of students. We like to work in a much smaller, more intimate classroom setting with a maximum of 16 students per course or per class. So there's loads of individual attention and focused attention that you're getting with our awesome lecturers like Alex and James, who we're going to meet later on. Let's find out a little bit about what's included on the course. So you get access to studio lab time and studio one-on-ones. So that's booking out the studios to come in and practice, as mentioned, but also additional one-on-one sessions with your teachers. So it's more than just those lectures. You can get that extra focused attention as well. You'll have access to our world-class virtual learning environment. So that's an online portal where you have access to all of your course materials, downloadable projects, templates, samples, and you can upload your assignments as well, which are then going to be assessed and graded by Alex and his team, as well as the assessments team. We do loads of guest lecture masterclasses. We do loads of exclusive events. For instance, tomorrow we're doing our Freshers event here at our campus in Point Blank. We're also inviting guest artists to come and do talks. As part of being a student here at Point Blank as well, you get access to student support, wellbeing and counselling services as well. So if you need help with anything whatsoever, just let us know and we're here to help. When you become part of Point Blank, you become of something that we like to call the Point Blank ecosystem. So think of Point Blank as kind of a mini music industry within our 4 walls, where you can experiment, you can collaborate, you can be creative, you can make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, grow together as artists and become the future of the music industry. That's what we're looking to achieve here at Point Blank. So you can see yourself as that focal point here in the middle. And it gives you access to meeting a whole range of other individuals who are also looking to hopefully make it in the music industry. So you might be a music producer or a sound engineer, but that gives you the option to start working with vocalists, with radio broadcasters, people who are looking to become music managers, people who want to start their own record labels, sound designers, DJs, music software engineers. There's loads of different career pathways that are available to our students here at Point Blank. And through developing your network and your contacts whilst you're studying here, that's going to enable you to get access to loads of opportunities when you graduate and you finish your degree at Point Blank. Because the music industry really is a networking industry. It's about connections and contacts. And the more you have, the more opportunities you're going to get. It's as simple as that. So let's look at these networking opportunities. We want to connect you to the music industry anytime we can, as much as we can. And we'll do that through listening sessions. We'll do that through student showcases. We have a student showcase tomorrow through our in-house record label, Point Blank Recordings. It's an opportunity for them to start performing, but start networking and meeting each other. And we do loads of masterclasses, as I mentioned earlier on. So in the past, we've had artists like Rudimental come in, Dennis Salter, Carl Cox, Nile Rodgers, Armin van Buuren, the Chemical Brothers. The list goes on. And we'll be having more guest artists coming in the future. So keep an eye out for those events and do participate in those and get involved. I want to talk to you a little bit about our industry partnerships as well. Over the years, we've partnered up with pretty much all the main players in the music production and sound engineering scene. So companies like Ableton, Adam Audio, Focusrite, Roland, Native Instruments, Waves, essentially kit out our studios and provide us with the latest hardware, equipment and software that you're going to be working with day in and day out when you're studying here at Point Blank. We want you to be working with the same equipment and software that professionals are working with in the music industry today. That means when you graduate, when you finish your course, you're ready to hit the ground running. You can deliver the goods in any professional environment. You'll know what you're working with, you'll know what you're talking about, and you can network and converse and work with other people in the music industry. And I want to share with you just quickly a quick video of our facilities and what you can expect, Point Blank campus to be like. For those of you who might be available this Saturday, the 18th of January, if you're in London, or if you can get yourselves over to London, come to our open day. It's a great opportunity to meet all of our staff, to take a look around the facilities for yourselves, and find out more about the courses and see if Point Blank is the right place for you. But for those of you who might be a bit further afield, then I see we've got someone here from Dominica. Welcome. Check out this video, which goes into a bit more detail about what it's like here. Take a look at this. Absolutely amazing. I can't stress how awesome this new facility is. We actually opened our brand new campus back in September. So we've been operational now for one term, and it really is an amazing space. Would you say, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, actually, it kind of leads me on nicely to bringing you into the fold. So you are the program leader here at Point Blank for the music production and sound engineering degree, right?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So tell us a little bit about, I guess, yourself. How did you get into becoming a musician, a music producer? What was your journey into kind of, music?
Well, my journey into music really started with playing music, playing guitar, and then DJing. And I grew up in London. Mm-hmm. Got into the London club scene, buying records, learning to DJ, all of that kind of stuff. But I always had this interest in. I loved the idea of what a sampler was, and and how that could work, and the idea of manipulating sound, and all the genres that were developing around that time, hip hop and jungle and house music and so forth. And my route into that was to actually just go and invest in some of that equipment. The kind of courses that we've got on offer now. Point Blank was available. I wasn't aware of it at that point, but we did. There weren't so many courses. There weren't the kind of courses we've got on offer now available then. So it was very much a kind of case of trial and error learning and learning on the job and so forth, and through experience and going into studios. So that was my journey. I was part of a collective from West London called Bugs in the Attic. We were part of a wider movement that was from that part of London known as the broken beat scene, or the West London sound. We've remixed people like Amy Winehouse, Fela Kuti, 4 Hero. I still continue to make music in that vein.
Yeah.
I do a show on Rinse FM, which is just down the road from here.
Awesome. When is
Every
that?
week.
If
That's it.
our viewers want to
Tune in.
listen to that.
Tune in Fridays. Not Fridays. Tuesdays, 5 till 6.
Cool.
We call it the hour of power. So, find it. It's myself and a guy called IG Culture, who's a very well respected and well known music producer from London.
Cool.
And we run a label, and I continue to produce music and release music. I've got a project called Name Brand Sound. I do some stuff under my name, not loads of stuff. I do remixes under my name, and yeah, I'm
Awesome stuff.
still out there doing stuff and sharing it with the students at Point
Yeah,
Blank.
you're here to,
This
I
is-
guess.
Yeah, this is how I keep myself busy in the daytimes now, and outside of that, I'm doing music projects.
Awesome. So I know that we saw a quick video earlier on, which kind of highlighted a few aspects of the degree, but I think we were going to do a bit more of a deep dive into,
Yes, let's talk
I guess,
about it.
each academic year that students are going to be studying. So starting with year 1 or level 4, as we call it in higher education, where is a student going to be starting? What's the starting point for the degree?
Starting point will be the music production and music composition modules.
Okay.
I'm not going to spend much time talking about sound design. We've got James Malone coming in shortly, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But as you can see, you've got music production, you've got music composition, sound design, music industry, sound engineering, and production style. So we cover all the kind of bases that get covered on the program in the first year. The first year is very much about trying to sort of level out everyone's skills. It's not a foundation course, but it is like the foundation of the degree.
Yeah.
And if we were to talk about the program, there are production modules. We've got composition modules.
Yep.
We've obviously got sound engineering modules. There's a suite of industry modules.
Yes.
And all of those areas are touched in the first year.
So from year 1, a bit more on the kind of basic side in terms of like setting students up for
Yeah.
what's going to happen next in year 2.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about the key modules here that students might be studying on level 5.
Well, I mean, first of all, I say they're all key modules.
Yeah,
in their own way.
absolutely. You've got to treat
there's
them all with the same,
Yeah.
same amount of respect, definitely.
There's certainly going to be ones that maybe appeal to some students more than others. But broadly, what you're trying to do at level 5 is start to build on that base of knowledge and skill. So, for example, if we take something like creative production and remix, you're taking skills you might have learned at level 4 in music production, maybe in music composition, maybe in sound design, maybe in production styles, and you're starting to use them outside of the context they originally learned.
Right.
Similarly, composing for media, does what it says on the tin. You're looking at maybe composing in a kind of a setting where you're going to be working to a brief and maybe creating music for a TV or film scene.
Yeah.
Much in the same way that you would be in a professional setting. So all the assessment settings, all the things we ask you to do on a practical level, or all the things we ask students to do, I should say, on a practical level, are very authentic in terms of these are things that we all do in the music world.
Yeah.
So we've got media composers, and they're bringing their experience of what they've done, and we're putting that into the classroom.
Cool. And can you tell us a little bit about how students' work is assessed? What kind of stuff do they need to typically deliver? Is there a lot of written work, or is it more project-led, or?
It's all coursework. We
Yep.
don't do any exams at the moment. It's 70%, broadly speaking, across the whole program, I say it's 70% practical.
Yeah.
So it's mainly going to be, if it's a production module, you're going to be producing a piece of music.
Yeah.
There is an academic side to it. The academic side, I would say, or the academic sort of written work, presentations and so forth, probably accounts for about 30% of the assessment across the program.
Okay. Cool.
But they
So-
feed into each other. It's
So very practical in its nature.
It's a
And I
very
guess
practical course, yeah.
That kind of reflects the sort of work that you typically
Yeah,
find in the
yeah.
industry, how the industry is normally.
and exactly. And the whole idea of project-based learning or coursework is that you're learning by doing. It's active learning. So we're trying to create authentic experiences that students have, which are similar to the experiences we've all learnt from.
Awesome. Super. Let's move on to year 3 or level 6. This is the final year. And it looks like we're sort of really gearing up to the sharper end of sort of professional skills, but also setting up students for their future careers, right?
Yes, absolutely. The real important module, they're all important, but what you're working towards, and this is what the student's working towards from the beginning of their degree, is the professional portfolio. So you can see it's split into two here, or appears to be two modules. It's actually one module. You do that over 2 terms, so you've got 6 months to complete this project. It's like your final project, or the equivalent of a dissertation in another university. And this is where a student's going to identify a specialised field of interest. So they may be really interested in doing game audio. They may find that they're very into a certain type of exploring type of recording techniques, a sound engineering type project.
Yep.
Or it might be they want to do composition for media, or they want to do an artist EP.
Right.
And they're going to research into this area. They might be doing a certain type of sound design. They're going to do some research into the area. They're going to plan the project, and then they're going to carry out that project in the second term.
Right.
Alongside that, you have music entrepreneur. That will be a final term module. Again, that's very much student directed. You're going to write a plan, or a business plan, or a self-directed plan based on something you want to do when you move on. So we're trying to move or prepare students for the point at which they're going to graduate and go out there into the world and be professionals.
Yeah.
You've also got modules such as advanced composition, which again builds on music composition at level 4 and composing for media at level 5. Advanced recording and mixing, we have sound engineering at level 4, we have art of mixing at level 5. Advanced recording and mixing starts to bring those skills together in sort of different scenarios. You're going off site, you're going to recording studios, recording bands. Audio for games is very much focused on game audio.
Yeah, well actually, going over audio for games, we've got a question here from the Finder who wants to know, does it go over Foley, which I think is one of the areas that we cover, right, in audio for games?
But yes, potentially, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Foley is something that's also potentially covered in composing for media.
Yep.
Potentially
design.
covered in sound design
Yeah.
as well. It's not just so it gets and again, it's an area that students may choose to start exploring more in the professional portfolio as
Sure.
well. So yes.
Yeah. Just to remind everybody as well that if you do have any questions about the degree, get those in the chat room. We'll be answering those throughout today's webinar, as well as a little later on in the Q&A. So like the Finder, and I think we got one from Johnny, which we'll come to a little later on, Johnny. Do get your questions in. We'll get those answered shortly. So we looked at level 6, year 3, the end of the course, and obviously that's all kind of gearing on to preparing students for professional life
Yes.
in the music industry. So let's have a little look at kind of what that looks like. Obviously there's loads of careers that students can enjoy. So what could a student who's graduated at Point Blank typically go on to do in the music industry?
Well, I mean, we've got these potential careers listed here, and this is based on careers that our students have gone on or do go on to do.
Yeah.
I've got a list in front of me here as well, which is the obvious one would be a record producer.
Yeah.
The obvious one would be a sound engineer. However, we have students who then go into actually artist management.
Sure.
I've got a student who I'm still in touch with from a couple of years ago. He's working as A&R at Defected.
Awesome.
Still pursuing an artistic career, still making music as well. I go down to Rinse every week. I've got a student there, or an ex-student there, who's one of the producers at Rinse, but she's also managing recording studios.
They studied the degree, the music production sound engineering degree?
Yes.
Awesome.
You've got some students who've set up their own studios. You've
Yep.
got some students who are doing live sound. There are students who are pursuing more artistic careers. Tends to be, or can quite often be, a portfolio career where you're doing different things. You get some students who go into teaching.
Yeah.
So it's it's a wide-ranging program.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many opportunities out there for you to get stuck in with. And one of the things that we really try to provide throughout the 3-year experience, or 2 or 3 year experience on the degree, is to show students what sorts of careers are available to you in the music industry. There's really so much you can do and you can really get kind of rewarding, enriching careers out of your craft and your passion.
Yeah, I mean, again, sort of the video game composition or sort of creating audio for video games has been a big one as well.
Yeah.
One thing missing from there is podcast production has been a big one over the last few years as well.
Absolutely. I know that we had a student who graduated very recently who's just become an assistant mastering engineer at Metropolis Studios in London, which is one of the biggest studios in London here. So there's loads of stuff out there that you can get stuck in with. I think, as we mentioned earlier on, one of the key aspects is that networking aspect, that collaborative aspect, working with one another, sharing, your music and what you do and your passion for music. And you've probably seen this throughout your career. The more people you meet, the more you kind of share what you do with others.
Yeah,
the more opportunities are going to come your way, right?
Yeah, you have to speak to people, you have to meet people, and obviously we're in a city where there are lots of opportunities. So yeah, absolutely, it's crucial.
Cool. So I think we've got a little video that we wanted to share with our attendees today, which I think highlights the sort of project work that a student might be completing on the course. Is that right?
It's an example.
Yeah.
Like I said, at that point, those final projects can be someone's making a sample pack. It can be someone's doing their own EP.
Yeah.
In this case, this student wanted to create a portfolio of work to demonstrate their ability as a sort of sound designer and a composer for visuals.
Okay.
So this is one aspect of the project we're going to look at now.
Cool. Well, let's take a look at it. So whilst we were watching that video, we had a little reshuffle. We managed to make James Malone appear. Welcome, James.
Hello. Well,
thanks for joining us. So I think you've actually got a bit of a project for us, which is kind of related to a little bit what we've just seen there in a way.
Yes.
But I know that you work, Alex, you work with James throughout the course.
Yeah, James is one of my colleagues, esteemed colleague, and he leads on the sound design modules, so sound design at level 4 and advanced sound design at level 5. Maybe it'd be useful for you just to say a little bit about yourself and your background before you came to Point Blank and what you do.
Yeah, sure. Like you, I started with guitar, actually.
Yeah.
Playing various things, metal, jazz, just trying everything and kind of jumping around a lot. And it seemed that the thread that pulled all that together was sound. It was focusing on the timbre of the sounds, not so much the notes, not so much the chords, but the actual, what was happening sonically. That's what resonated with me. And that eventually led to me kind of getting rid of guitar entirely and just synthesizing sound with hardware and software. And I haven't stopped doing that. I eventually went on to do a master's and got really deep into interactive and generative music and sound art generally. And yeah, it's kind of become an obsession which persists.
Nice.
Yeah.
So one of the many careers you can also enjoy as well. There are so many different avenues you can explore when it comes to music production.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a little bit about, I mean, I sort of held back from talking about the sound design modules earlier. Just tell us a little bit about what goes on in those modules, what are students going to learn?
So sound design in level 4 is very much about working with creating unique sounds from scratch. We go through creating kind of all the basics like big bass sounds, nice mellow pad sounds, drums. But at the end of the day, it's very much about you creating the sounds that you want to create. So the reasons why you might want to study sound design are kind of twofold. Firstly, it's to help you stand out, I would say, from the crowd. I'm sure we've all had a moment where we hear or we recognise a sample pack in a track. There's nothing wrong with that, but certain artists stand out because of their sound design, because of the unique sounds they're creating. Like, it can be as simple as just a unique kick to something quite experimental that you've never really heard before, and you sort of think, how was that made? Well, we're here to show you how it was made, and how you can make your own sounds like that. And I think the other point is that it gives you freedom, because you don't have to rely on presets, on sample packs. Again, these are useful tools, but if you can create everything yourself and know how to do that, it also brings you closer to hearing sounds in tracks that you might like, and getting closer to how you might actually recreate that and work it out yourself.
And potentially, it also gives you, even if you are working with sample packs, for example, it gives you sort of, you could potentially manipulate those sounds in ways through the knowledge you've acquired.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we do look at sample manipulation through just what we might call creative sampling, just using a sampler to kind of manipulate a sound, or something more complicated like granular synthesis, where you're kind of breaking the sound apart into tiny little grains and then rearranging it in new combinations. So you really will end up with something, or you can end up with something wildly different to what you started with.
I have a question. So what sort of careers possibly could a sound designer, enjoy once they've mastered that skill? Where could they find work? How could they apply that in the music industry?
Well, it helps a lot with production.
Yeah.
I think it will give you that kind of unique sound to go off. But also there's work in sound design. You could be a sound designer for visuals, like something the piece we just saw, for example. Making sample packs, making presets, testing synthesizers, whether that be hardware or software. You'll often see people's names on presets on new synths that come out, and people get asked to do those things and to like beta test them and stuff. Audio for games as well. I would say definitely a big avenue. Creating all the sounds for everything you see in the environment, whether that's kind of Foley sound like we were mentioning, or kind of creating new unheard sounds for sci-fi sounds and that kind of stuff. It's quite broad, really.
And even for your own sort of artistic voice, potentially, as you said, it allows you to potentially stand out a little bit, or be a bit more distinctive.
Absolutely, I think we're yet to see how far we can go with sound design. It's still new types of synthesis to explore, new ways of processing sound.
Well, we were just having a few conversations, which we won't go into here, but outside before this, about how sound could be used in all manner of scenarios. How would you assess students on these modules?
Well, the assessments are quite practical. For sound design, it's very much almost a production project where you get taught a certain number of techniques and various ways of doing them, although there's no particular right way necessarily. And then you demonstrate those techniques in a piece, a short piece of music or sound, and you basically are kind of graded on how well you employ those particular techniques and how creative you are within them. Do you just recreate what you're shown, or do you actually go a bit beyond that and do something kind of new with it?
Awesome.
And you've brought something that you've been working on.
Share some magic with us.
You've been working on something. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yes, this is sort of a research project which I have been working on for Point Blank with the software Pure Data. Pure Data is quite an old software now, but it's been open source this whole time, and more recently with this new kind of wrapper for it, Plug Data, it's very accessible. And essentially it's audio programming software, and this is what we're going to be looking at in advanced sound design, where you're not just learning how to use synthesizers to make sounds, you're building the synthesizers yourself.
Right.
And that's kind of what I've done here. I don't know if you can see this on the screen right now. I'm just going to turn the volume up, but this is essentially a piece of what's known as generative music, which I've made myself. I've programmed this patch here, I hope you can hear me talking over it, to synthesize a variety of sounds. We've got a kind of drone generator here, and a pad, some noise filtered to sound a bit like waves, for example, various melody generators. This might not mean much to you right now, but essentially I'm using kind of randomization to pick out different melodies from a variety of modes, which I picked out that seemed kind of pleasant. This is essentially meant to be quite a calming piece, really.
Right.
At the moment, I think we're just hearing samples, but that's because this thing can shift and change.
So where did the
throughout
samples
day.
come from?
The samples are a mixture of things. Some of them are recorded myself in Buckinghamshire, like water and things like that, like streams and rivers, birds. Others are recordings from my friend Joe Wright in Wales, going out into the woods and kind of making recordings of various birdsong and stuff. So I've got hours and hours of that that just gets loaded in. So to give you a quick example, this is the sample player here. If I just go inside it, it's got different waveforms, different samples loaded in. You can see Joe there as well. Forest rain, beach waves, woodland birdsong, and these will kind of randomize. So every time I open this project, it will load in a different sample. The volume of it, you can see there that kind of low pass filter opening there.
Right.
So everything in this piece is kind of fading in and out, making space for new things. And now you can hear some of the synthesis coming in as well. So this is the melody generator. I think it's this one actually. And this is a synthesizer that I've built. Again, it may not look decipherable right now, but essentially this is something called physical modeling synthesis,
Right.
where we're using delays and filters and feedback to recreate the behavior of acoustic instruments. So what you're hearing might sound a bit like a plucked string right now. The idea, hopefully, is to put this in a space somewhere where students can kind of come and chill out. It's meant to be not too invasive and kind of work in the background. I was inspired by ambient music, so I looked into Brian Eno a lot and him talking about ambient music. Eric Satie as well, and the concept of kind of furniture music and functional music in the background. And I spent a lot of time just listening to this. I was working on it in my home with this project just running throughout the day, kind of immersing myself in it. And when I heard something that I thought I could change or add, I would go over and program it in and then go and sit somewhere and listen for a while and then come back again. So it was a very involved process.
And this plug data is something that you're going to be introducing to students or teaching students on the advanced sound design module.
That's the idea, yeah. They'll be learning to build synthesizers from scratch, plug data. But it's not limited to just synthesis. This software can do stuff with visuals. You can process various inputs such as temperature or sound sensors, any kind of data really. It's very open.
It's very interesting. So it's quite. This is obviously a very advanced project and something you've using years of expertise. This is something that students would potentially move to. This is also maybe an example of the kind of thing a student might do if they're getting very specialist in their final project as well.
Absolutely. I think that's something I'm excited about with bringing plug data into advanced sound design, is that students could potentially make an installation, to put in a space, some kind of piece that changes throughout the day. That's what this is. It's a generative piece. So essentially, every time you walk into the room, it's going to sound kind of different. It's never going to repeat in exactly the same way, or at least it's very unlikely that it would.
Yeah, and are there any triggers that it's working off, or it's just self-generating?
Its own logic.
It's through its own logic.
Yeah.
And is it like an AI tool where it learns, or is it?
I suppose you could describe it as a very simple form of AI, but
Right.
it's not really learning anything. No, it's just like I give it rules and it kind of generates things according to those rules.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
And yeah.
What might be the uses for this? You know, maybe something like an art installation or
Exactly,
video game background foley, for instance, something like that.
Well, video game sound as well. I mean,
Yeah.
having generative music is quite common in gaming, where you know, things will kind of interactive music as well. Certain events will happen and things will respond.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's generating so many interesting sounds that you could potentially be capturing that as audio, maybe just sampling those little sounds and putting them in a track. I mean, in the sound design module, would I be right in saying that a lot of, you know, you focus on creating kind of fundamental sounds as well, those
Yes.
what we might call like crowd pleaser type sounds that everyone's familiar with?
Absolutely. Yeah, we go into all the basics like 808 kicks, you know, everything, and dubstep bass lines, just, yeah.
So it's good to know how they're made, but there's been so many 808 kicks already out there. We don't necessarily need to be making any more, but it's good to have a fundamental understanding of how to do that, and then you can build upon it.
Absolutely. I think there's still a place for all of that stuff as well, but it's nice to have the knowledge to go beyond it.
Yeah,
also.
Absolutely. Well, it's very pleasant to listen to. It's certainly
very nice, very relaxing. I would say.
Improved the atmosphere.
Well, good. That was the idea.
Brilliant stuff. Well, thanks so much for bringing that in, James. It's great to see that work, and hopefully it's inspired some of our attendees here to, go and be creative and make something similar. Cool. So listen, whilst we were watching that and listening to everything, there have been some questions that have come in. So I wanted to start our Q&A. And for anyone who hasn't asked any questions yet, now is your time. Get those in the chat room ASAP. We'll answer them right away. We've got a few questions that have come in though. Before we answer those, I just want to say a quick shout out to Glenn, who's joining us all the way from Montreal.
Hi, Glenn.
So hopefully you can come and join us in London, Glenn. We look forward to seeing you. So we've got a question here from Johnny, and this is quite a common question we get. And he wants to know, do I need a Mac if I want to do the point blank degree? Is a Mac necessary? I know we've got one on the table, but PC as well.
Well, the doors we work with are Logic Pro
Yeah.
and Ableton. And if you want to work with Logic, you're going to have to do that on a Mac. But if you're working with Ableton, then you can do that on a Mac, and you can
On a Windows.
Or PC. Yeah.
PC.
Sorry, my bad. On a PC, yeah. So you don't need a Mac if you're working with Ableton.
Yeah, we work here at Point Blank. All of our studios are kitted out with Apple Macs. So that's what we work with. So you can use both Logic and Ableton. If you want to be an Ableton user and work with a PC, that's totally fine as well.
I have plenty of students that use PCs.
Yeah,
absolutely. I prefer PCs myself these days, but I used to be a Mac user. And, they all work the same way. They're computers at the end of the day. As long as it enables you to make great sounding music. We've got another question here from the Finder. It's an interesting question. He wants to know, how many of our students have been interested in media composition as a career?
That's an almost impossible question to answer, but what I can say is that a significant number of students are interested in media composition as a career. You obviously we've got the module, but you kind of can gauge it from how many students do that kind of project for their professional portfolio. And there's always a significant portion of students who are doing something like that. Definitely.
I know that there's one student I'm aware of who's actually one of our student ambassadors here at Point Blank, who has come specifically to learn how to compose music, write music for the film industry, and he's very much into Bollywood and Indian cinema, and wants to kind of make a foray into that world. But I've also seen a lot of students that have come to us maybe with a view of being a music producer, and through the course have been introduced to the sort of work in multimedia that people might find.
That's a very good point, and I think that's the thing to consider. It's like you might be coming into this course thinking, okay, I'm into a specific type of music that I want to make.
Yeah.
And you'll absolutely be able to pursue that whilst you're here, but don't come here just thinking that's what it's all about. You're looking to broaden your horizons, you're looking to broaden your skill set that will give you more options, and as someone who's going to potentially go and work in the music industry, or someone who is going to go and work in the music industry, it gives you those options. You're going to upskill.
Totally. I remember when I was a young lad, 16, I did a work experience opportunity. I very luckily got to go and work in a recording studio with a chap who he was a musician and he was a drummer in a band, and they got signed to a label, and a few world tours later, the playing and being a musician didn't last forever, and so he had to look for something else to do. And so he made music for TV and television adverts and scored for movies. And it kind of opened my eyes to a different world of being a music producer that I wasn't aware of. And there really is so much more that you can get out from your craft and making music. So yeah, next up we got one here from officially TZ or TZ, who wants to know, is there any point in the course where it teaches live sound engineering?
No. I mean, you will learn how to set up microphones, record live instruments and so forth in the sound engineering module, and also advanced recording and mixing, but we don't do a specific live sound module at the moment on this course.
Yeah. I think
it may change in the future, but currently, in this current version of the program, no.
There are some transferable skills, maybe. You know,
I mean, a lot of our students do that on the side, don't they?
Yeah, but again, a lot of our students do tend to go on and find that kind of work, regardless of it not being part of the program.
Yeah,
so.
Totally. Cool. Next up, we've got a question here from, this is Giuseppe. It's got quite a few questions, actually. So they want to know, what are the entry requirements, and do students need to know about music theory for music production, or maybe things like maths or physics for sound engineering? Is that a requirement?
I would say for the basic maths. I mean, you know, it's not super advanced maths or physics. Music theory, I would definitely say that developing an understanding of that kind of thing is going to help you make more informed decisions. Not always, but I think a lot of the time it does. And I would encourage, if you are coming to do this program, I would encourage you to engage with that, because the music composition is very much about application of that theory. We're not talking when we call it music composition. I think we should probably stress that it's kind of music composition for producers. It's for producers to make informed choices and to be able to create music. We're not looking at sort of notation and scoring music in that sense.
Not hardcore music theory with Sibelius, basically.
Bar chorales.
No,
yes.
no, exactly.
Yeah, cool. In answer to the entry requirements, specifically if you're looking at joining the music production sound engineering degree, we would be looking for 2 C's at A level, that's what I meant to say. As well as an English language qualification equivalent to GCSE grade C. We're also looking for a passion for music and music production. That's really important. And typically students will kind of demonstrate that through a portfolio of work. So they'll send through a few examples of tracks that they've produced, a few ideas that they've created. We don't expect students or applicants, to be the finished article. Obviously, that's why they're coming to study a degree with us, right?
But often you're looking for someone who's gone out and tried to do something themselves and had a go, and maybe working with friends and so forth, and they've maybe got to a point where they think, I can't take this any further, I want to study this, I want to learn, fill those holes, and I want to meet other like-minded people.
Yeah, totally. Cool. We've got another question here. So what traits in students would you look for taking specific career paths?
Okay.
What do you make out of that?
Well, I would say that anything in the arts, you need to have, we already mentioned it, a passion for it.
Yeah.
You've got to be, you've really, got to be a specialist in you've got to hone in on an area and really delve into it. And I think communication skills, being able to talk to people, being able to network, being reliable. These are all things I'm kind of sort of talking about what we would want to see from our graduates here as well.
Yeah, but then also skills that you need in day-to-day life.
Exactly. These are these are the sort of just arguably sort of the transferable skills, or the life skills that any degree should be cultivating in their students. Absolutely.
Another question here we've got here, this one's from Giuseppe as well, who wants to know what equipment is needed for the programme.
So you have got access to a lot of facilities here.
Totally, yeah.
However, I would say that you want to have a computer.
Yes.
Reasonably powerful computer, either, we've already discussed this, a PC or a Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Your software of choice, so Ableton or Logic. We do have a lot of students who are using things like FL Studio and so forth, and that can kind of be integrated in, but you have to bear in mind you're going to submit your projects in Logic or Ableton, I would say some form of good monitoring, so some decent headphones,
Yeah.
some reasonable headphones, some speakers, maybe something like this Focusrite sound card, which is relatively cheap,
Yeah.
and a MIDI controller, but that's not necessarily essential. But I would recommend that,
Yeah.
like a MIDI keyboard of some sort, or a push or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good starting point. I mean, one of the things I'd recommend is don't go out and just buy a load of equipment. We've got everything here. So if you're not sure what to buy, you don't really know what you need to get yet. Come here, work with all our kit, and then speak with Alex, speak with James, and they can recommend what you might want to look at getting as your first MIDI controller or audio interface or something like that.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I mean, you can do so much just with Logic and Ableton without even buying additional plugins. There's so much you can do just with with one sound.
Totally.
And I'm very much an advocate of less is more. That's personal preference, and I know lots of other people are very much into buying loads of kit and so forth. But yeah, certainly don't go out, spend a load of money without sort of learning the basics first.
Yeah, definitely. Another question here. We've got time, probably a few more. So if you do have any more questions, get them in. But this one, so for those of you who might be from other parts of the world and not in the UK, we do offer a online degree as well.
Yes.
And we've got a question related to that. So is the online version of the degree the same in terms of content and interaction with tutors as the in-person one? So yeah, I mean, the online degree is exactly the same course pretty much as the one in London.
There's a lot of similarities. Obviously, what you don't have access to is the facilities that we have here. You're not going to come into the recording studio. You haven't got access to the SSL and so forth. So what I would say is the sound engineering side of it is very much on the post-production side. So it's more about mixing. It's about audio editing and so forth, because you just simply can't, unless you're going to do that yourself and you've got access to a studio. We don't cover exactly the same aspect of recording bands and so forth on the online program, but the structure of the program is more or less the same, and you're still working towards the professional portfolio project at the end.
Cool.
And there's a lot of lecturers who teach online and in London as well. The way the learning happens is differently. It's you work much more with our VLE. It's much more about the videos and the notes. You have weekly 2-hour masterclasses and tutorials become important. So it's a different experience, but you would expect that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got time basically just for one more question. I'm going to have to wrap it up, I'm afraid. But there's one here, which is, why do final projects need to be submitted in Ableton or Logic? Can they only be submitted in Ableton or Logic? Your projects, your files, the work that you complete? I think that's what I'm getting here.
In certain modules, so for example, if you're doing the music production in Logic or music production in Ableton, it's very much focused on that piece of software. So that's why. Once you get to the final project, the professional portfolio, at that stage, it's not really about what DAW you're using, it's about what you're producing or the output. So it might be that by that point you want to do it in FL Studio or whatever it is you're using. Mm-hmm. And at that point we might say, well, because we want to see evidence of your process and your technical expertise, we'll probably say to you, well, what we want is actually you to create a walkthrough video discussing what you've done and why. At which point you could be using whatever you want. But be aware that leading up to that sort of final year, same with advanced recording and mixing. You might choose to do all your mixes in Pro Tools. At that point, you're just going to submit mixes and screenshots of what you've done, and the lecturer's going to assess it. So, but in answer to the question, the reason is that we can only have so many DAWs in the school. We work with Macs in the school, so you should be aware of that. So if you are working with Ableton, you can save your project and put it onto your PC. But we can't teach and cover every DAW as well. So that's the reason.
Cool. One more question, it's just come in, and it's, do we teach students hardware as well as software? Do we look at hardware equipment as well?
Well, as part of sound design, I and the other lecturers do try and bring in some hardware synths.
Yeah.
If not to demonstrate, then to actually let students have a go as well and kind of connect what they're learning in the software to the hardware and the more tactile experience. But I think we are looking into getting a bit more of that happening as well.
I think so, yeah, absolutely. We do have an awesome studio as well with loads of hardware, analog synths and equipment that you can play around with here at the campus. So definitely go in there and make the most of it. There's some cool stuff. I think we've got some old Roland gear and
We've got a Juno.
We've got Sub Fatty,
A couple of Junos.
MS-20 modular synth, which
Yeah.
is cool. And
And there's hardware in the sound engineering.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
you're running it through the desk using the SSL, and you know you're working with hardware in that sense. But in production, it's very much, you know, if you want to use hardware for your stuff, you've got stuff that you're either at the college facilities or you're working with something. You can obviously record that and use that in
Absolutely.
your work.
And I think what's important to remember as well is that the theory you learn, you know, let's say for instance compression theory, you know, you can apply that same theory to a hardware compressor like you can to a software compressor. You know, it's the same product essentially in physical or digital form. So a lot of those skills you're learning are transferable between, you know, the digital and the hardware worlds. Cool. Well, listen, I think that's all we got time for today. We haven't been able to answer your questions. Apologies, but do get in touch with us, and we'll be more than happy to answer those. And yeah, hopefully help you figure out if the music production and sound engineering degree is the right course for you. I want to thank my guests today, our program leader Alex, and also James. Thank you so much for sharing this awesome project with us. It's been really interesting to find out about it. And I hope you found it equally as interesting and it's inspired you to go on and do the same. I would really encourage you, and we'd welcome your application to come and study our music production and sound engineering degree. As mentioned, we've got courses starting in April. We've also got courses starting in September. You can apply through UCAS, which is the typical method to apply for UK-based students, or you can apply directly. And our admissions team will be delighted to receive your application and consider you for a place on the course. There's one final thing I'd like to share with you. And as an institution, as a university, as a school, we like to be judged on our successes. You being successful as a student, as a graduate, and finding success in the music industry means that we're successful in doing what we do, in educating you to work in the music industry. And we've been really fortunate that over the years we've had many students come and study with us, come and study our music production and sound engineering degree, and go on to achieve very, very highly in the music industry. So I want to share a quick video as we see you out. But for now, it's a big thank you from me, big thank you from the guys. We'll see you very soon on the course. Thanks for attending. Take care and good night.
Everybody feel it come around with the rhythm, it's a sound. Every feel it come around with round. Everybody feel it come around with the rhythm, it's a sound. Everybody get down when we give it to you.
Everybody feel it come around with round. Everybody feel it come around with round. Everybody feel it come around with round.
Everybody feel it coming round, round, round.